Sci-fi shooter with big ol' robots? Oh yes, please. Today on TGRS here on Internet Nobodies, I'm Terrell, and this is TitanFall 2.
Of all the things I've seen on the battlefields of the frontier, the pilot is the true dominant force. Fast and agile. Graceful, yet devastating. Perceptive. Resourceful. And relentless. A pilot sees the world differently. Sheer walls become flanking routes. Pilots fight differently. Experienced in deception and maneuver, even overwhelming odds shift in their favor. But what truly separates the pilot from all the grunts and machines of the battlefield is the bond between a pilot and a Titan. When linked to a Titan, a pilot can only be stopped by overwhelming force, or an equal. The frontier has been the only home I've ever known. For years, our lands have been destroyed by the IMC, forcefully taking our resources, polluting and destroying our planets, and killing us off if we try to resist. Despite recent victories at Demeter and beyond, we have a long way to go before the IMC is defeated. Now, I serve as a rifleman in the militia, fighting to free the frontier. I'm a long way from becoming a pilot. But when that day comes, I hope I can live up to the honor.
The Titanfall series of games is a group of games I feel like I've just been sleeping on. While it's also one of my favorites, the first game was just amazing with addicting gameplay, which was the only reason I ever really used my Xbox 360. Titanfall 2 refined the gameplay down and got just an amazing story laid out in front of you that Respawn really wanted to tell, and it shows. And then Apex is one of the true battle royales I've ever really come to enjoy. For one reason or another, I never found myself coming to play the single-player Titanfall 2. And yet I always heard about how good it was and how it was one of the best of the generation of FPS campaigns, with a nice little 6-hour story that is just a power trip and then an emotional impact at the end. And I find it just absolutely fantastic, and some of the best futuristic multiplayer ever to come out of this generation alongside that. Okay, I'm just getting a little bit ahead of myself. Anyway, you play as Jack Cooper, a rifleman in the basic infantry of the militia, but training to become a pilot, which are the cool guys that get to control around the big robot titans. You're underneath the training of Captain Lastimosa when you are abruptly ripped from that training to make an attack against the IMC on the planet of Typhon, in what the militia is calling Operation Broadsword. Needless to say, it doesn't go as well as hoped, and after only really knowing him for a brief moment, we do see Captain Lastimosa killed trying to defend you and other riflemen around you. And this is all while he's in his Titan, BT-7274. This is also where we get to meet the big bads of the game. All of them are hired guns for the IMC who tie into the Apex Legends. In his last dying breaths, Captain Lastimosa makes you his temporary pilot, who must repair BT and uphold the mission. This is where you get to take the training course that you completed and put it into action. You have to use all your skills to go around and gain the reactor cores that will repair BT. Unknowing if you're ready to take up Lastimosa's mission, as it might be your only chance to survive, you're fighting your way to a location where militia members are calling out for aid. And the only thing you really notice right away is just how big of the shoes you have to fill, as BT is recognized almost immediately. You do your part to help fight your way to the reclamation facility, and there you find one of your new Titan loadouts, which will be spread around throughout the game, and BT just has different weapons and abilities that get applied to him with these loadouts. But this is where one of my favorite dialogue options is. Having a robot describe what love is to what humans think about it and tell him the percentage of how in love he is. And I just find it so stupid funny.
Pilot, this Titan weapon is an advanced design and may give us a tactical advantage.
I think somebody's in love.
A human's concept of love requires admiration, attraction, devotion, and respect. Conclusion: I am 50% in love.
TitanFall 2 does an amazing job of making the game feel open. While it's fairly linear overall, I think the ability to just jump in and out of a Titan almost at your own free will, along with the size changes that come with that, makes the level feel like there are just more options and a large range of things to tackle the level. There are portions that are restricted to either inside or outside of the Titan, but the devs keep the more outside of the Titan moments fresh with the additional mechanics and change to form from mission to mission. These come in the forms of things like level manipulation, or the ability to learn new tricks to your movements so you can be a true parkour badass. And my personal favorite is blinking between points of time to make your way through a laboratory and learn what the IMC was working on, which turns out to be the main, plot point of the game, which is super cool and has to do with time warping, and I love it. The game wouldn't be much to talk about without BT. He might be just a big ol' robot, but the personality that he has encoded to him and the bond you two are programmed to have is something just truly special. He's not just your Titan, and inversely, you're not just his pilot. You guys are friends, bros that have each other's back. Even if the time is brief, the connection you share, you can truly see it, and the connection is carried all the way to the end of the game for a nice big emotional impact at the end. However, I'm going to leave it up to you to go and play the game for yourself if you want to know the full context. I don't think the game is worth playing if I spoiled it. The talent that is Respawn is the same talent that made up the original Infinity Ward team, and best known for their work on the Call of Duty franchise, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare to be exact. Being touted as one of the best feeling shooters of its time, as well as making the most innovation to an online multiplayer, they brought this with them when they started making Titanfall 2. I can only remember one other time where I felt the game just felt that right, you know what I mean? And that was with Spider-Man PS4. It just felt amazing, and this one is no exception. From the gunplay to the smoothness in the movement, and being able to go seamlessly between pilot and Titan. It's just fantastic. It just helps you feel like a badass future military man who's got a personal mind link to a giant robot. In short, you feel like you're nothing but unstoppable. This feeling carries into the multiplayer as well, but now the challenge is that there are more fantasy men running around, and the game balances itself in one way. If everyone is overpowered, then the game is balanced. I find this amazing once again, but I always give credit to EA titles. Everything feels big. They add elements like AI to the battles to make things just feel so much fuller. So even if you're not the greatest at the game, you feel like you're contributing because there's always something going on and you're always actively engaging in some sort of combat. Now, with my time in multiplayer, it does feel like there's more often than not where you will just get rolled by the other team if they get any lead, but there are just as many times where you're doing the rolling, or there's even a good chance that you will get to be in a good game. It's just not as common as getting rolled or rolling people, but everyone needs to pull their weight in order to win in those very tight games, even though they're few and far between. There are a good amount of game modes that add in the flavor to multiplayer, but it's unfortunate that it's only really populated in attrition, which is the game's TDM, and it's a ton of fun, but it can get a little boring after a while. Luckily, there still is a good number of weapons and abilities at your disposal to try and unlock and master. The class customization is familiar to other FPS genre games, which isn't a surprise considering this is the team that introduced the modern class customization as we know it. I like to run a variety of weapons, but I prefer to play with a fair deal of movements, so I must say I'm a bit lazy with switching off of things like the grapple hook. While I am slowly moving away from the grapple hook, I just still find it so much fun to grapple around and use it to chain the movement. They do completely allow you to customize things like your kit, which is just perks from Call of Duty, but they also allow you to change your execution, which, should you be on the sneaky side of an enemy pilot, is a very satisfying melee kill. In my opinion, all the multiplayer maps are varied and interesting in their own right. I have a few personal favorites due to aesthetics, but it doesn't feel like there's a map that doesn't belong in the game. They're all crafted beautifully with the movement in mind and how to flow the movement chains together, as well as Titan battles and pilot battles meet and also have spaces to separate. While not simple in design like other shooters, this one has a lot of time to master, but you don't need to have a perfect photographic memory in order to do very well, at least figuring out a map from base level. This is a fantastic looking title. It's always a little fun for me to think about the fact that this game is a heavily modified version of the Source engine, which makes sense when you consider the amazing physics that the game has to have. It really was the right tool for the job, and became a fantastic framework to make one of the best FPS games on the 8th generation of consoles. With fantastic visuals, also must come a fantastic OST. God, it's just amazing. And I know I say this all the time when I talk about like soundtracks and stuff, but this one I feel is truly amazing and even stands up to any other video game soundtrack out there. Heck, I would say it matches or even exceeds cinema levels of quality. Take a listen to some of these picks, they're my personal favorites, and they just set the mood for the game so perfectly. With this game now on Steam, I feel like there is no reason not to pick up this game. There's at least a good single player there for you if that's all what you get out of it, but there's so much fun to be had in the multiplayer, in the campaign, and just the movement. The movement itself can sell this game. I personally think that this game is a fantastic package, and it's being sold at almost like steel levels of prices at this point. It is truly worth it, and I hopefully will get to see you on the battlefields in Titanfall 2 sometime soon. Thank you guys for watching another TGRS here on Internet Nobodies. I wanted to take some time to talk about something light and fun while I'm still hard at work on The Last of Us Part 2 review. Come back tomorrow for James's saucy face and next week for Matt's review. And until then, I'll see you next time.